Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, a.k.a. PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions, the worlds of social media, pop culture, geek culture, comic book culture. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on Twitter I go as PD Beats. You can call my guest many things. You can call him an author. You can call him a comic book creator. We were talking about how I was going to introduce him, but we'll go with comic creator. We're with Kyle Starks. Kyle, welcome to Popternative.
Hey man, that's me. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So usually it's at the end of the show where I get my guests to kind of plug their work and what they've been up to. But you have so many cool things on, like so many cool projects and books that I want to get right into it right away. So everyone knows that you are the Rick and Morty comic guy.
I'm the Rick and Morty comic book daddy, sure.
But you also have a book where it involves a dog who is a pretty kick-ass zombie hunter.
Yeah, Dead of Winter. That is right there. It's my first visual podcast, so I brought items to show. Dead of Winter actually comes out next week, I think, in trade form. It's about a dog fighting zombies. It's very good. It's draws from a very popular board game called Dead of Winter, which is awesome if you're a board game boy. If you're not a board game boy, the comic is about a dog fighting zombies. So beat that. What
kind of gave you the idea of making it like from the board game to a book?
The publisher, it's the same publisher that does Rick and Morty. So it was a license that they were interested in. The board game industry is fascinating. It's something like 8 times more profitable than comic books right now. So it's something that that's why almost all comic book stores are selling board games now. And it's a very popular game. It's a very good game. And I was debuting Rick and Morty at a show and they were like, hey, would you like to do the zombie book? And I was like, I don't really, I have a zombie story, but who cares? And they're like, oh, well, you can be a dog in this one. And I was like, oh, well, no, now I'm interested because I'd love to write a dog fighting zombie book. And I did. And it's great.
Absolutely. And it's I feel like it is like, I feel like it's been, Walking Dead I just feel like has been on forever and it's still, super popular in terms of its fan base and everything, but zombies have been in for the last 10 years now and I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't think it's going, I love, I'm a Romero boy. I love the Walking Dead comics. I think Kirkman's, I love zombie stuff. So I just didn't want to do another, I think you got to find that hook on it. And for us, there was no question. The hook was to do something that's a little bit funnier, because that's, I guess, my expertise or whatever. And to have a dog. It's a dog wearing a cape. His name's Sparky. He's a good dog.
Absolutely. And, this is obviously down the road, but, I'm usually read about these things, but I don't know, animated series maybe about this dog.
Let's make it happen. Who can we call?
Let's call someone. I'll get on mine too, and we could see what we can do. I'll make some text messages.
I love it, man. I would see not a penny more probably for that, but I think the Dead of Winter franchise it's a really good game, and I think anything that draws more attention to it is great. We're talking about doing a season 2 for next year. I'm really excited about it. There's a lot. There's a drunk Santa. There's a bunch of great characters that they created, and to get to play in that sandbox. Which, with licensed books, just like Rick and Morty, it's to get and play in certain sandboxes is why you do it. Mm-hmm. There's too much stuff. There's just too much fun. So,
when did you get into the Rick and Morty stuff? When did that opportunity arise for you?
For the comic stuff, or as a show?
Both. Do they go hand in hand?
I love Dan Harmon. I think Community is one of the greatest shows of all time. I think he's a literal genius. I remember when Chevy Chase got him kicked off Community and they showed, I'm going to scratch my nose a lot so you can start the cocaine abuser rumors here. I just have an itchy nose. I don't know. But I remember seeing the show when it was sort of his project after Chevy Chase got him kicked off Community. And I was like, it looks pretty stupid. Hold that thought because now I draw that way professionally. But I just did a book. Look at that, more called Sexcastle. I was nominated for an Eisner for Best Humor Publication. Mm-hmm. Generally, the way it works in comics is if you're the funny guy, people will come to you with all the funny stuff. Oni actually came to me and asked me to write Invader Zim, which I wasn't familiar with, but I wrote an issue, and I was like, well, I wish they would have asked me to do, Rick and Morty. Adult Swim had put up the entire first season after it finished. to view online. So as someone who works from home, it's a lot of turning things on for noise. And I put it on, and I actually smoked then. And I went to my back porch and I smoked a pack of cigarettes and watched all the episodes in 6 hours straight. So I was super stoked when they asked me to do the book because I love the show. That was 2016.
Okay.
I debuted at San Diego 2016. So I've been doing it over 2 years now.
Okay. And was it kind of the opportunity? I mean, I find that to be very, I mean, it could be a very like difficult task, you know. It's like it's a TV show, and then boom, you're kind of told to make it into a book.
Geniuses. So
no, absolutely. So what was like the first thing that came to your mind when it was like a done deal? All right, I'm the Rick and Morty comic book guy. What was going through your mind? Was it going to be a challenge? Were you excited? Was it kind of like, oh man, like, you know?
I was super excited because since I love the show, I was excited to be able to make more of the show. The original deal was I'd get 5 issues, and they were going to do like a rotating cast because sort of I think wanted to have a bunch of different looks and a bunch of different flavors. But I did those 5 issues sort of as like that was going to be it, and they said, well, why don't you do 5 more? I think I just did like my 33rd book or something like that. But yeah, no, it's crazy hard to do in 18 pages what 2 geniuses in a writing room have 20 minutes to do, or 25 minutes or whatever it even is. But I love those characters and I love that world and I love the opportunity. I think they made something great, and I'm glad that I get to be one of the very few people who get to contribute to that universe. Who knows when the show's coming back, but we're putting out new episodes every week basically, or every month, not every week.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the word universe. I like that. What is the ideal Kyle Starks universe? Maybe like based on, you know, the work that you've put out, or, you know, something that you want to put out down the road, or something that you're a fan of. Like, what do you like from, like, you know, a comic book or a story personally?
I mean, I have a pretty strong niche that I work in, for better or for worse. And I mean, whenever people ask me like, what should I do? Like, I want to get into comics. Like, what's advice or anything really? It's always make the thing that you want to exist. So all of my books are sort of, you know, comedic action movies because those are things I love. I think comics should be fun. But I also love action movies. I want to see people fight each other. So everything, in fact, I generally say like Rick and Morty, the only difference is like I'm doing like sci-fi jokes instead of action movie jokes. Otherwise, it's kind of the same stuff. I love action movie stuff, man. Kill Them All is my homage to 90s action movies. Sexcastle is basically Roadhouse the comic, sort of. That's really minimizing it. I just did Rock Candy Mountain. Look at this. Here, I got these.
I was about to say, you showed everything but Rock Candy Mountain, and I'm like, I'm gonna be disappointed if you don't show that, because that's
like this. Volume 2 just came out at the beginning of this month. It's a hobo kung fu epic. Yeah. Like, man, I love when people fight, and I love when things are funny. I suspect at some point in my life I'll want to do something that's literary and dramatic, but for now, it's like I think comics should be fun, and I'm making the things that are fun to me. A dog fighting zombie? Mm-hmm. Like, why would I say no to that? That's great.
No, absolutely. Okay, I got 2 questions. One involves, you know, what we were talking about before we started, you know, the conventions, the actual, you know, going out, meeting the fans, you know, book signings. So I find it very interesting because not that geek culture and comic culture hasn't always been super, super popular, but is it just me, or has there been kind of a boom in the last couple of years?
I think the thing with conventions...
Yeah, with conventions...
I've only been doing this literally for about 5 years, so I don't know if I'm an expert per se. But I think one of the things that has noticeably changed is that there's no longer a stigma for celebrities to show up at a convention. In fact, now it's literally a business. These guys have booking agents for shows. I think 8 years ago, I mean, even discounting The Walking Dead's popularity now, but you wouldn't see those guys in a show because they're serious actors doing a TV show, where now everyone knows there's a lot of money to be made. So there's more celebrities, and I know a lot of my peers are like, celebrities. And, you know, look, sometimes there's too many celebrities, and there's no reason for us to be there maybe. Like, there's a balance that has to be found. But I think being able to the thing with comics, especially, like, there's a lot of stuff. I could go on this at length. I think piracy has a big influence because where people are maybe not getting comics always for free, they still love comics and they still love comics creators. And you can't pirate a real life interaction. You can't pirate a signature. I mean, I guess you could, but you know what I'm saying. That's
I was about to say you can, but
that's a different crime. That's a completely different crime if you do that.
No, I understand.
I think those things. I think it's just the things that are very real and valuable are the actual interactions, and I think that's what's booming. Is people want to meet creators, like creators and actors, and the conventions make that possible, and that's why I think they're so successful right now.
Yeah, because you mentioned, celebrities, and you kind of made a little bit of a joke, which I disagree with, about, they don't really want to meet me or meet us, the comic creators. But I disagree, because there's a lot of people out there that books and like novels and graphic novels have got them through horrible times in their life, and it is I'm not trying to make you sound like, now you're just like, oh man, he's making me sound like a jerk. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is like, I think like because people want to have those experiences, and I think that's why there's a lot of issues. Like, comic sales are generally down, but conventions are doing a lot better. Absolutely. So to me, it makes me think it's that because those are experiences that you can't acquire offhand, basically.
For sure. Second question, pick up one of your books. Pick it up. So you see, you're holding that. You're going through the pages. You're looking at the pictures. I honestly don't. We're in a digital age, but I personally don't think that people are going to stop picking up a book from a store. What do you think about that? Even though they're all maybe electronic.
No, I don't think they will either. I worked for newspapers before I worked in comics, and it was always, newspapers are on the way out, and newspapers aren't what they were. They've changed significantly in the last 15 years, but they're not gone. And my suspicion is that with comics, it'll be something similar. There's a lot of different speculation on what the problem with comics is. I think a pretty good one is that there are just too many, physically. And I think probably like I don't know. I hate to get into, like, a solution is to limit the number of print books, monthly print books, but you don't limit digital, and you find something more of like a boutique sort of thing.
But it's supply and demand, right? I mean, I honestly think that if people weren't reading them, they wouldn't like print as much. I really do think that it's big industry right now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with supply and demand is the issue is that there's more supply than there is demand in a lot of ways. Okay. But the thing is, everything's stretched out. So everyone's getting a little bit, but it used to be there was more. Like I said, I've only been doing it a few years. What I've learned in the 5 years, I used to work at a comic book store a million years ago, in the 90s, which is, was a boom for comics. There's money everywhere, but not for creators. So a weird sort of trade-off. It's super interesting. I think comics in the next decade will be different somehow than it is today. And I don't know what that means. Maybe it means they're not being sold at comic book stores. Maybe they're just sold at bookstores, like how they used to be grocery store, spinner racks. I used to get my stuff at a convenience store, gas station when I was a kid. Like I remember getting a Amethyst #1 at a grocery store. Like, you couldn't imagine that. Can you imagine getting a hobo book at Bilo or IGA or whatever? Like, no way. It's so weird.
For me, what started was reading the comic, like the newspaper Sunday comic strips, and reading Zits and reading all of those and being like, wow, that's awesome. And then actually going to like bookstores and seeing that they actually like sell them.
Yeah, and like the Zits is next to other things, and you're like, oh, well, what's this?
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I was a big, you obviously remember Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, that was
Midwest boy.
Those were like unbelievable, and I'm really surprised that there hasn't. Maybe because it's so, like what do you think of like when people say like, oh, that's untouchable, you can't touch that, you can't reboot that, you can't remake that. But like I'm just surprised that they haven't rebooted or done something with Calvin and Hobbes lately.
Bill Watterson didn't make, like, you couldn't get coffee mugs with Calvin and Hobbes. He was super protective of it. I suspect at some point Bill Watterson will. Is that right, Bill Watterson? I hope that's right. I think that's right.
I think so.
He's going to die, and then his family's going to make some decisions. But he was always like, you couldn't get a Hobbes stuffed animal. Like, the things that seemed like obvious choices, because his thing was that there was just a comic, and that's what you get. And he made the comic exactly right. And as someone who makes things, and especially makes things like comics in which in some ways you're hoping for that movie or that TV series, man, I get it. Like, you want the thing you make to be just the thing and just right. And like Bill Watterson's the exception. Like, that dude protected his stuff so well.
Oh, absolutely. And then Sparky stuffed animals come into a store near you.
Everywhere. I wouldn't get any money for that. That's not mine. Let's do hobos. Let's stuffed hobos.
Let's do that. Have you thought about, I don't know, the answer to this question might be that, yeah, it's already done, but like those like loot like loot crates? Have you ever thought doing your own loot crate with all your stuff and then going up to companies and getting like a stuffed animal like Hobo? Like that'd be kind of cool. Like your boy Kyle Stark's loot crate.
Let's get it started. I don't know.
You had a lot of samples of your work. Did you show me? Did you have a Rick and Morty?
No, I didn't bring it to that. I figured people know what that is.
Oh, but I wanted to see it on. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm sorry. No.
You plug it in digitally afterwards.
Oh.
So good. Right,
well, no. Oh.
Hold on.
Oh my god. Oh man.
I know it's dead air. I only have.
But just because people know what it is doesn't mean they still don't want to see it.
I only have the convention exclusive covers for a couple. So here's volume number 5.
Awesome.
A very good Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the one that just came out. You can only get these covers at conventions though, or from me. There's Me6 Volume 6 that came out in November. Volume 7 I think comes out in May. Mm-hmm. And the big books that talk with Chips comes out also. Volume 3 is coming out real soon.
Awesome. Where can people follow you on social media?
I am the Kyle Starks everywhere on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. I tweet a fair amount. I have a Patreon, which is under my name, Kyle Starks. I have storeenvy.com, which is Kyle Starks. But if you go to the Kyle Starks, you'll find everything. I'm a real chatty. Don't come to my personal Facebook. I hate that. Come on. I'm taking pictures of my kids there. I'm not talking about comic books. The Kyle Starks.
All right. Well, Kyle, seriously, thank you so much for joining us on Popternative.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good times.
Yeah. Well, this has been Popternative. If you want to watch more episodes, youtube.com/Popternative for the video episodes. If you don't want to see our faces, maybe you want to see Kyle's face, but maybe you don't want to see mine. But you can listen to the audio onlys on Spotify or on iTunes or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Until next time, this is your boy Kyle Starks and PDP signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.